Hello. Going live a little bit earlier than normal today because I have to go out. And so I've only got 45 minutes today, unfortunately. And I didn't actually know whether or not I'd be okay live. I've not been very well, unfortunately. So I haven't really been online as much as normal, doing all my updates. So nice to see you all coming. I'm glad some of you are just around here. Hello from Egypt. Hello, salam, ni hao. Nice to see you all. And I thought, well, I'll come on and see if we can have a bit of a catch up now and see if there are any questions for languages. Because on Sundays when we have the Polyglot Conference lives, we often get a lot of language questions as well. Bonjour, hello. Nice to see you all. Thank you for joining. So first of all, I have a shout out for my good friend Luca Lampariello, who got his silver disc from YouTube for getting so many people on his fantastic for Luca. And she joins the ranks of course, our friend Lindy, who got her 100 a few months ago, I think it was. And also Paul from Lang Focus got 1 million subscribers, so he gets a gold one. And I just saw his wonderful disc. That's extremely impressive, and they've all done so much for the language learning community and to sort of improve our knowledge about languages and different cultures and countries. So that's fantastic. Of ik Nederlands kan praten? Ja, dat kan ik wel. Dutch Daily Drummer. Ik heb in Nederland gewoond, dus ik kan wel Nederlands. Boa tarde, tudo bem? Hi from Brazil, hello. Nice to see you all joining. Thank you very, very much. So I was saying, unfortunately, yes, I wasn't very well. So I've kind of been a little bit off my social media channels. Just a couple of private posts I've had on Facebook, and really that's about it. I just wasn't feeling amazingly well. I managed to, I think I froze out in the sun a little bit too long last weekend, and managed to get some sort of heat stroke or something. So yeah, it was very hot, unfortunately. So there we go. But nice to see you all joining. I can see, okay, nice to see you, Mohammed. And hello from Poland. Hello. Jak się mamy w Polsce? Gdzie w Polsce? So let's talk about languages. I know we all like them, and so I think that it's probably a good time to talk about them. During these, I enjoy this very, very much, and I like to answer your questions, and I like to speak different languages, of course, as well, which is also a lot of fun on this channel. I get to hear a lot of cool things. Was that a Thai flag I saw? Oh no, Costa Rica flag. Hello from Costa Rica. Saludos. ¿Qué tal? ¿Todo bien? Almost the same colors as the Thai flag, the Costa Rica flag. I've just noticed. I'm more. Thing is, some flags I'm particularly I notice very quickly. So the Thai one particularly because I have Thai links myself. So I do notice that. Hello from Germany. Hallo, wie geht's? So when we start learning a new language, what's the best way? And I have to do it. So the best way, English is your native. If English is your native, it's another language without using other languages. Yeah. So Ibrahim, there are many ways for learning languages, and how to get started is basically, first of all, picking your language and knowing why you're studying it. Very, very important. And then also, once you feel comfortable that you know why you're doing it, and you really get that and you feel motivated, then I think the best way is to do at least a little bit every single day. So you need to do at least a couple of hours a week of proper study so that you can really get into the language a bit and move forwards. Otherwise, like 5-10 minutes a day is great, but it needs to have a little bit of proper solid study to move forwards in the language as well. But the 10-15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour a day at least would be useful just for the inputs, because you need to get as much of the language in as you can so that you can start producing it. It just helps you with getting to understand how the language works, how it sounds, getting into the pronunciation properly so you can pronounce it well, getting to the rhythm of the language. And then also you start picking up words and the grammar. It just becomes actually quite automatic when you do it every single day. The main difference I notice is that you need to do basically think of the language a lot, have it in your head, have it in your mind, be conscious that you're doing it, and make it part of your life is the really important thing. How many languages do I speak now? I don't know. I really don't know. I've studied over 50, and I kind of I don't know if I'll ever change that even, because it's difficult. I don't really count them in that way. I've studied a lot. Sometimes I speak one better than another, and sometimes it just depends where I am and what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, I don't. It sounds funny to say, but I don't really worry too much about how many languages I speak. I just enjoy lots of languages. Hello from Manchester. Hi there, Darren. How are you? I've not been back to the UK for a while, obviously, for obvious reasons. But yes, it would be very nice. How many languages do you speak and write fluently? I think I got that with just that one, Mustafa. I use a lot of languages for work and stuff, but yeah, I don't really count them so much. I've studied the level that I need a language for what I'm using it for, why I'm learning it. So that's why I always say it's very important to be conscious of why you're learning a language. Because if you just learn a language and just say I'm going to learn a language, it's a big thing to do. Improving accent is a good question, Fatima. So one of the things for me is that I don't really worry too much about my accent. What I do care about is my pronunciation, and the pronunciation. I make a difference between pronunciation and accent, and there is a kind of a part where they meet a little bit, because clearly to have a good accent you need good pronunciation. Although I have met people who have quite good accents, but when you get them to split up a word or to say a word slowly, in English, for example, then they'll make mistakes. It's if they speak quickly like a native speaker, they've maybe learned how to mimic the sound like they would maybe a song or something like that. But then they can't actually pronounce every single thing clearly. So I say that for pronunciation is the important thing, and the way you can improve your pronunciation and your accent as an extension of that is recording yourself. So when I was at university studying Swedish, we did 1 year of just Swedish pronunciation, and it was to learn how to pronounce Swedish vowels particularly well, because it takes a longer time. There are more sounds in Swedish than in any of the European language, I believe, and so a lot of vowels, long and short vowels. So we took a year basically just focusing on that, and we used to record ourselves, listen to the recordings, listen to the original, and compare, get feedback from a native speaker. We'd listen to where the position of our tongue was in our mouth, whether it was the roof of our mouths, behind our teeth, whether we were making a voiced sound. So, for example, if you feel vibrations in your throat when you're producing a certain sound, when you're not, all of these things would go together to help us to learn how to pronounce things correctly. And then if you're talking about accent, I think that one of the cool things that I have used in the past is trying to imitate the accent of your target language in your own language, and then just transferring the words back onto the accent. And I think that works fairly well. But with accent, it's the rhythm of the language as well. It's not just the pronunciation; it's also the porosity, the melody of the language that you have. Which you definitely need to to get right to, and that changes. You see this very obviously in a language like Chinese with tones, because there'll be a tonal. You can learn, for example, what, which is I. And then what hurten is like very hao, 我很好. Oh, sorry, 好, 我很好. But you don't say 我很好, say 我很好, because the tones glide into each other. So it works like that in pretty much every language as well, like even English, where we tend to chop things off and things go together when you're speaking in a sentence. And then if you say a single solitary word, then it's the way, especially if you want to accentuate how it's spelt maybe, or how to say it in a more standard way, then you do notice a difference. So yeah, look out for that kind of thing. Here we go. I'm seeing here. I see some more questions. I'll just see if I can answer them all. Guten Abend, hallo. Okay. Was ist dein Eindruck von Lateinamerika im Vergleich zu Europa? Viele Grüße aus Mexiko. Ja, ich liebe Mexiko, muss ich sagen. Und also ich bin schon in Brasilien und Mexiko und noch Venezuela, Paraguay und noch Argentinien bin ich schon gewesen. Und ich fand es sehr, sehr schön dort. Und ja, also im Vergleich zu Europa ist eigentlich so wie meine Heimat. Also das kann ich nicht so gut vergleichen. Aber ja, ich liebe also beide Sachen eigentlich. Ich finde Europa und Lateinamerika sehr schön. Und ja, also, also alle. How many times do you go over the same material to remember it? Many, many times. Docs, many times I have to go through it. I forget so much, and it takes a lot of repetition, and that's why it's really important to get that input on a daily basis, because you're going to forget. It's normal, it's natural, and it's human to forget a lot of what we. So I need to do that. You need to get as much as you can and expect that you're going to forget an awful lot before you get it right. It's definitely the case for me. I'm guessing it's the case for most other people as well, unless you're a robot, which I think many of you are not. Guten Abend. Welchen deutschen Dialekt magst du besonders gern? Beispielsweise nicht gerne. Okay, also für mich, muss ich sagen, sehr gern. Ich finde Schweizerdeutsch, also Zürichdeutsch, sehr schön. Also ich finde ich finde so melodisch, oder? Wenn sie so sprechen, also ich finde es ganz gut, aber ich kann es nicht so gut machen, oder? Ich kann so, aber mein Deutsch, also ich habe in Nordrhein-Westfalen Deutsch gelernt und also das war so ziemlich, also platt artig sozusagen. Also, und dann sagte ich immer so wat und dat auf Deutsch und nicht was und das. Und also, aber ich fand es schön. Ich sagte nie, also normalerweise sagte ich eigentlich nie so sägen oder sowas. Es war immer so sagen, aber ja, schon habe ich ein bisschen so mitbekommen. Ich finde es auch schön. Ich finde, kein Dialekt für mich ist schlecht oder habe ich nicht so gern, muss ich sagen. Ich finde die alle so schön. Ja, es ist ein Problem, wenn du so viele Sprachen magst, ne? Hello, greetings from Bulgarian. Hi, Olga, how are you? It's nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. Zdrasti, kaksi. Any tips for learning Icelandic? Yeah, don't worry too much about the cases in the beginning. Learn things in context for a language with cases. It can get a little bit confusing. Ben, if you need materials for Icelandic, there are some good ones to get you going to start speaking the language. It's called Íslenska fyrir alla, and there is a website. So if you write, it's basically, I'll try and write it. I haven't got an Icelandic keyboard, so do excuse the lack of Icelandic markings. Fyrir alla. And if you just type that into Google, you'll find the website, and it's got free books, 4 levels, and also free audio that goes with the books. And you can start picking up sort of common Icelandic. There was also a video series that was really cool in Icelandic. Can't remember what that was called now, but it was had subtitles in Icelandic, and it was just all in Icelandic. And that was pretty cool to get you going with it. Jag har en fråga till dig. Okej, Olga. Ja, okej. Har du studerat skandinaviskt i Sverige? Okej, jag har studerat svenska bara i Storbritannien, men jag har gjort så kurser där i Sverige med online. Så jag har gjort 3 semester kinesiska, 2 semester russiska och 1 semester arabiska, 1 semester japanska och 2 semester georgiska och så vidare. Jag vet inte när. Men det var alla online, men ibland på svenska, ibland på engelska. Alltså det gick ganska bra för mig. För att jag kan okej, svenska, jag kan prata svenska, det är inga svar. Men jag har aldrig varit mer än bara 1 vecka i Sverige. Bara så, ja, med min familj eller någonting så. Det var bara, jag såg 1 vecka jag var med en vän från mig som var i Orust, hade en sommarhus i Orust, så jag var där. Ja, det var allt. Men jag använde det språket också för mitt jobb. Okej. Litteratur, ja, jag tycker jättemycket om litteratur, men jag har aldrig så mycket tid att läsa nu för tiden, så är det jättesvårt för mig att läsa. En cystisk lesen ja, danke. Ist ganz gut. Ja, ich finde so ist gut und ja, ist gut, danke. Any learning tips? German, I'm starting from tomorrow. Fantastic for German, I would say. If you're starting, if you want something to listen to, check out the extra German, extra Deutsch, extra in German on on YouTube. There are some nice series you can watch while you're doing your lesson learning, just to start listening to the language, and it goes through the very basic stuff as well. So that would be quite cool if you want to get something. Manoj, Adrian, so good tutor on italki. One of the things, one of my only complaints about italki, and I don't have any. this is one of my only complaints, is that sometimes on italki everybody marks everybody 5 stars and everybody's wonderful and everybody's amazing, so it's very difficult to know which person is good. I think using the trial lesson system is a good idea, and having a trial lesson with people, knowing what you want and what they tend to, reading the profile as well is also helpful. I've normally had very good experiences on italki, so it's not normally been a problem. I tend to kind of adapt my own learning as well, depending on what the teacher does. I think that's quite handy to do as a learner, to be able to adapt, because it helps you to also deal with different types of speakers in different languages as well. So yeah, I'd say watch the videos and read the profiles carefully. Look at the comments of what people say. Sometimes the comments are useful, sometimes they're just kind of blah, if that makes sense. But yeah, when everyone's 5 stars, it does make things a bit difficult to kind of really determine who is genuinely a really amazing teacher, if you know what I mean. So yes, there we go. How can you improve your listening comprehension? Dream Steve, by listening as much as you possibly can. Also trying to listen to things that you've got maybe a text with as well, like a podcast. So sometimes with podcasts, you can listen to the language and read along. Sometimes with subtitles on videos, you can also do that as well. I would think that would be probably one of the better things to do. Also, if you use Link, you get those automatically for some of the bigger languages. Particularly, they have a lot for French. My daughter uses Link for French, for example, and she just listens to podcasts about different topics and reads the French, so that she kind of gets different topics that we don't normally talk about at home in French, like recycling. We may talk about it a little bit, but we won't go into the depth of a podcast, for example, around the kitchen table. It's just not what we talk about all the time. And so to get a nice breadth and depth of vocabulary, I recommend doing that for your language, and it'll help with your listening just naturally. Do you think Assimil has a useful approach to start learning French? Is there any platform you would recommend to get into a new language? Yeah, I do, definitely. I recommend Link, actually. I think Link is pretty good. Also, I mean, depends what you like. I mean, Link, I appreciate, might seem a bit scary for some people in the beginning, because it dives right into language for many of the languages. But they've got, for most of the courses, they have 60 basic stories that build on each other. There are a couple of mistakes in some of the stories, but also as you go through the language, you'll pick up on where they are. And actually, I recommended it to a friend recently he wanted to learn Croatian. And I'd recommended Assimil, and I recommended Teach Yourself and those kinds of books as well. And he's been going through some of those, but he wanted to do something where he could just do like 5 minutes chunks every day. And it's quite cool for that, actually, on Link, because you can just do a 5-minute chunk of a language. Also, I mean, Memorize also has courses that you could look at, and they have, again, you can do like 5-minute, 10-minute chunks of the language. So again, you could try them. the good thing is that you can try them without buying sort of premium for any of these people. These are just things that I've tried and enjoyed. So how to improve listening comprehension. Okay, I think I got that one. Fyrir að læra íslensku. Já, fyrir að læra íslensku. Já, það gaman. That was it, Ben. That was exactly the one. Fyrir að læra íslensku. It's a really, really cool series. To enjoy the linguistic side of languages, not just the languages for a tool for communication, but deeply embedded culture and history of the people. Yeah, I think, Darren, I really enjoy it. Particularly etymology is one for me that I find really, really quite interesting for me. I love etymology, and I find it happens naturally just by learning lots of different languages. I would say that it's linguistics is a science, and I'm not a linguist. I haven't studied linguistics in that way, but you do find that you pick up a lot of linguistic things that you would learn on a linguistics course by learning several languages, because you pick up on the grammatical structures, the grammatical features of many different language groups. You pick up on terminology that's used in linguistic circles, just because you're looking at it all the time, and clearly it becomes almost an automatic thing. But I would still say I'm definitely not a linguist in any way, shape, or form. I do enjoy it though, and I like meeting linguists because they've also got a lot of cool insights to share sometimes. I'd also say that as a language learner, and when you have languages embedded in your head, as I do, more so than, say, some linguists will learn language as a theoretical thing, right? As a science, more a sciencey thing, right? So, whereas when you learn the language and it's in your head, sometimes there are a few differences that I've come across where the definition between dialect and language is quite an interesting one that I've picked up on over the years, where a linguist will say, oh, it's a dialect, and but they haven't really studied that language or the other one. They just studied the structures and made a decision. And then other languages, they'll say are languages, and actually to me, as somebody who's learned them, it doesn't feel like it feels very arbitrary where they've drawn the line. And I don't fully understand that. Maybe it's because of the lack of knowledge I have in linguistic circles. Could also be, and I feel at times that sometimes there's so much mixed in with languages that you can't divorce everything from them. It's hello from Moscow. Hello, Olga. So through our Indians, okay. Moscow to läsning på okay. Let me see. I'm just going to go on to. I've got to go to some of the other questions I have here. I've got quite a lot of them piling up. I'm so sorry that I'm taking. Okay, do you speak Arabic? I know a few words of Arabic. I haven't studied it for a while, but yes, I've studied it before in the past 3 times, in fact, and for very specific reasons. And unfortunately, all of that went by the wayside because of wars, because of jobs not working out, because of all sorts of things. But yeah, I was supposed to move to Lebanon in 2006, and that didn't happen because there was a skirmish between Israel and Hezbollah was it Hezbollah? I think it was Hezbollah in Beirut. So unfortunately, my job was cut, so I couldn't make it out there. I was hoping to, and I was learning Arabic, ready to go, but I couldn't go. And also, I was supposed to go and study in Syria for a year in 2004, and unfortunately, they didn't get back to me in time, so I couldn't go to Syria. I was supposed to go and study at the university in Damascus. Didn't happen either, and I studied for that at the University of Leiden for about 8 months before, and didn't get to use it. So unfortunately, yeah, hopefully in the future I'll get to improve my Arabic. I do like it. It's a very pretty language as well. Saludos desde María. Hola, ¿qué tal? Feliz día. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Juanjo. A ver, es posible to sound like a native speaker. Is it possible to sound like a native speaker? Some people may feel that it's possible to sound like a native speaker, and it may be possible for a short period of time to for somebody to believe you're a native speaker. I personally don't see or don't understand the desire fully to sound like a native 100% of the time, because first of all, I've never met anybody who speaks English, which is probably the most studied language in the world. I've never met anybody who speaks English to the degree where I would say they sound 100% native. Never. And it's the most spoken language in the world, most in terms of foreigners learning English as a non-native language. And I've never come across anybody who spoke it that well. That I never realized that they were foreign or non-native speaker or from birth speaker, should I say. It's just never happened. That doesn't make any difference to me, though, because people have native level in the language, and native level is the important thing. If you're talking about native, I think native level is more important to talk about the native speaker, to sound like a native or that kind of thing, because native level is an amazing achievement for anybody. And I know many people who have reached native level in English and in other languages, but in English particularly. And it's impressive. There are always going to be things, if you didn't grow up in a country where that language is spoken and you want to be a native level, well, you might get to native level, but there are always going to be gaps in your cultural knowledge. There are going to be gaps in your generational knowledge of where you fit into society. You're always going to fall down somewhere in a conversation that you can't pass for a full native. And when you do, the reactions can be a bit negative, I think. So I would say probably best not to aim for that and aim to be native level, which I think is a lot nicer. And also native level varies, as there are lots of native levels, right? You can be native level, somebody who's native level in a PhD, someone who's native level and they've got a degree in their own native language. These are very different native levels than, say, somebody who's just works a normal job and doesn't really need to understand the language into that level of depth, because their work may be more technical, so their language may have developed in a different way, and it's very it's very varied. So yeah, I never set that as a goal myself, sounding like a native. But I kind of understand why people want it. I don't fully. I understand it on a kind of on a theoretical level, but not on an emotional level. I don't feel that same drive. Okay, thank you very much. That's very sweet of you, Martha. Thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it. Bonjour, c'est bon de te voir. Merci, c'est gentil, Nelly. Je suis contente. Merci, c'est gentil. Je vais voir si tu as une série de livres de grammaire préférés. Moi, je dirais que, en fait, pour les grammaires, de plus en plus, j'utilise que des trucs que je vois en ligne ou que je vois, par exemple, les exemples que je vois dans mes livres, dans les bouquins d'Assimil ou bien de Teach Yourself ou quelque chose comme ça. Puis après, si je veux vraiment entrer dans la grammaire, puis j'en ai plusieurs. Je dirais Routledge, par exemple, ils ont des trucs intéressants pour la grammaire. Et puis à part de ça dépend, en fait, ça dépend de la langue. Mais il y en a plein. Enfin, c'est assez difficile à dire, mais je dirais à Routledge en général, je trouve assez sympa. Abraço do Brasil. Obrigado, Rodrigo. Video. Oké. En hoe laat is deze video begonnen? Ja, om 6:45, want ja, ik moet even iets eerder weg dan, daarom. Sorry hoor. Do you think, yes, I think I answered that, so I do. Een beetje vroeger, ja, sorry voor dat. Ja, ik ben een beetje ziek geweest. En ja, vanavond heb ik iets anders te doen. Dus ik moet iets vroeger dan even met mijn vrouw naar een restaurant gaan. Dan, daardoor is het een beetje vroeg geweest vanavond. Ja, hopelijk maakt het niet zoveel uit. Maar ik blijf tot 7:30 vanavond. Ja, 7:30 en dan moet ik weg. Helaas. Helaas, pindakaas. Okay, I'm trying to catch up on all of these. There are so many messages. Wow, thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Okay, cool. Check out this guy is Arabic native speaker, but he speaks English like a native. There will be people, Ibrahim, that you can find that will sound native for a certain amount of time, and that happens, and I accept and agree that happens in many languages. But sounding native constantly all the time over a long period of time, it's not possible, unfortunately. I've never met anybody that can do that. The thing is, you'll meet people who will say, oh, they sound native, but you'll never meet anybody normally who'll say they sound like they're from the city I'm from. And that's where the rub is, because if you, even for me as a native English speaker, if I say that somebody sounds American, for example, an American will hear something I don't hear that doesn't sound American to them. Same for Australian English, same for Canadian English, same for New Zealand English. They'll always find something that doesn't quite sound right to them, and so they can hear straight away. So it's funny that you always hear that native sounding accent in another person's accent, if that makes sense. So I could pretend to be American and speak with an American sounding accent, but there's always going to be a part where, and I can do it fairly well, my American friends say I can do it fairly well, but there'll always be a word or something I'll say that will give me away as not American. It will just happen, and it's natural. And that's, I mean, and English is the language I'm a monolingual English speaker from birth. So even for me, I can't do that with American English. And as I say, I can do a fairly convincing accent, and even some of the words and grammar, but still, it's never going to be fully 100%. It might sound it for a short bit, but there will be a point where I will make a mistake. Hello. So learn to speak a language in 7 days. Okay. No, you can't speak in 7 days. When people say speaking a language and not fluent, I get you mean not fluent. So 7 days, if you want to speak a language, honestly, hi Nyla, sweetie. If you want to speak a language in 7 days, I just don't think it's going to be anything. Look, I mean, people have done things kind of akin to speaking a language in 7 days. So speaking a language in 7 days. What you can do, if you speak languages that are similar to a language you're trying to learn in 7 days, yes, you can learn to adapt your knowledge, adapt your vocabulary, adapt your grammar, and adapt your accent and pronunciation to another language that's similar in 7 days to be able to communicate some ideas. But you're normally always going to hear that person has done something like that. Your ability to reproduce the language in a very fluent and way without mistakes is going to be hampered by the fact that you've only had 7 days exposure to the language. So clearly you can't reproduce it in the same way as if people say speak a language. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. So I would say, with huge caveats, yes, if you learn, say, I did Slovak. I learned Slovak in 2 weeks. I learned Slovak. I studied Slovak for 2 weeks, and I went to Slovakia and I spoke Slovak for a competition at the Polyglot Gathering, and I was able to communicate my ideas in Slovak. My Slovak was heavily influenced by my Czech and my Polish. So, and now, because I learned it so quickly as well, I did it so quickly within a week or 2 weeks, it disappeared just as quickly because I wasn't using it again. So that's what I'd say you can do if you want. If you're talking about a very different language, then you may be able to introduce yourself in a week. You may be able to say a couple of things. But would you be able to have a conversation, a spontaneous conversation with somebody from the country? Probably not after a week. It's just very, very soon after learning it. If you take a language like Esperanto, you might. Esperanto is obviously, but is built that way to be simple. So yes, you could, after a week of Esperanto, I guess you could communicate basic ideas in Esperanto, for sure. Will it be perfect? No. Will there be lots of mistakes? Absolutely. And will you have a sufficient, a deficiency in vocabulary? Absolutely. You will not have the vocabulary. So if anyone claims that they're A1 or A2 in a language after a week or 2 weeks, impossible, because you need to have quite a lot of vocabulary to get to A1 even. A1 is not, my name is Richard, I am from the United Kingdom, I speak English, I am married, I have a child. That's not A1. A1 is much more than that. A1 is knowing how to name the things in all of your rooms in your house. It's knowing how to describe the weather. It's knowing how to talk about yourself, talk about your job a little bit, talk about a number of things. So I think sometimes people do get confused about what A1 actually is and what A1.1 is, which is halfway through A1, and what A0 or 0.25. A week of a language is not an A1 level. It's a false beginner. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I know it's not what everyone wants to hear, and most of the time people want to hear, yeah, you can learn a language in like a day and you're going to be amazing. It's just not reality, unfortunately. For me, it's definitely not reality. If it is for you, then I would say absolutely great and good luck to you. I've just got to plug my iPhone in, sorry, so that I don't lose battery on the stream. But yeah, if it is you and you managed to do that, fantastic, well done. I've never met anybody who can actually do it though, apart from Daniel Tammet, who did his Icelandic intensively for 4 days in Iceland with an Icelandic teacher, went on TV and made a video on live on Icelandic TV. Even so, he had studied other Germanic languages before. It's a Germanic language. So I mean, I'm not going to take away from what he did. He did an amazing thing, and I met his teacher and I spoke to her about it in a very honest and open way. And he actually only had 4 days studying Icelandic, not a full week. And Daniel Tammet he's a special case. I mean, he's a special case in that he's got an amazing memory, and so yeah. I mean, he's a savant. So it's a bit different than kind of your average learner. And for me, I definitely can't do that. Speak a language in a week. I can learn the basics and I can get by and I can muddle through a conversation in some languages in a couple of weeks if I do it very intensively. And I will make a lot of mistakes and it will not be an A1 or an A2 level. It's very difficult to classify sometimes because you haven't studied them in a traditional way, especially when they're related. It gets a bit confusing trying to classify a level. When people ask me about levels as well, sometimes I find it very hard because they'll say, well, what level are you at in this language? And it may be a language I've learned that's similar to another one. And so I get a lot of free vocabulary. And it might seem like I'm at this B1 level or something, or because I can understand quite complex things, but it doesn't follow. It doesn't always follow. Maybe my understanding is around there, but maybe not. Like you can learn Catalan, for example. You learn Spanish, then you learn Catalan, and you feel that you've got to a really high level in Catalan over a couple of weeks, but then you find out that some of the more basic vocabulary, like the word for a dog, the word for yellow, is extremely different in Catalan than it is in any of the other languages of that family. So yeah, gos, you're not going to guess gos is dog because you know the word for dog in Spanish or in, and you're not going to guess the word, you're not going to guess the word grok for yellow, la casa groga. If I say la casa groga, you'll go, what does that mean? Groga, la casa groga. Groga is yellow, grok is yellow in Catalan. But unless you study Catalan in a more structured way and you go through the vocabulary, you're not going to know these things. You just need to learn them. You can't guess them. And it's that vocabulary that takes time. And that's why I always say, we've got to be realistic. It takes time to learn language. You can be fairly good if you do it very intensively, quite quickly, but it takes a lot of time. How much do you study Spanish a day a week? Every day, Peggy, I'd say, every day. And I'd say as much as you can possibly do. Listening to it a lot, Peggy, I think is important. So yeah, do as much as you can possibly do. Hola Carlos, ¿qué tal? How are you? I would say that the most you can, as much as you can do, it's way better for your languages, because you need as much input as possible to be able to move forward and to be able to see as much vocabulary as possible, as quickly as possible, and as often as possible. Why no Hebrew? אני לא יודע, רובי. אני מדבר רק קצת עברית. יש לי הרבה חברים מישראל, ואני לומד עברית קצת כל יום, אבל אני לא מדבר עכשיו במקדוניה, אין לי חברים עברית במקדוניה עכשיו. Not bad. Okay. Thank you, Robbie. You're very kind. You're a bit too kind. My Hebrew's not amazing. I'm not offended if anybody says it's terrible. Really, it's quite terrible. Have you ever thought of going to a multitude of Leeuwarden? I've been to Leeuwarden, and I liked it very, very much. I've been a lot of places in the Netherlands. Oh, for the Polyglot Conference. Why not? One day we can go. Maybe we could do a language event there as well. What do you think of that as an idea? Yes, answer Edward's question, please. Edward, what was Edward? What age did I start learning languages? When I was about 5, I was interested in languages. I started practicing with different dialects and accents in English. So I would listen to the TV and I'd hear accents from Australia and America, and I would practice trying to sound like them. And then all the accents around where I grew up as well. Like my original accent in English is Scouse. So yes, I would definitely do this kind of thing. So yes. I hope that helps. So how to learn Polish cases. In general, I didn't study cases for any of the languages, really. When I was at university in Prague, we had to kind of learn the paradigms, and at university we did. But generally, when I learn a language, I tend not to focus too much on the paradigms. I tend to learn the cases when they're written in a certain phrase or in a context, and I pick it up through the context. So that's kind of how I do it. And then they start making sense. Southeast Slavic, okay, South Slavic, Slovenian, really similar to West Slavic, Slovak. And so, Tim, I think that Slovene, if you're asking, Slovene is more similar to Slovak than Bulgarian. Yes and no. Yes, in that some of the vocabulary is definitely more similar to Slovak. Slovak is kind of in between language as well, kind of joins up the West Slavic and the South Slavic to a degree. But yes, though I would say that Slovene does have quite a lot in common with the other Southeast Slavic languages. The one thing that's cool about Slovene, though, as well, that I really love, is that we've got the dual. It's the only language that retains this in the Indo-European group that retains this full dual. We have elements of it in other languages, but Slovak really retains it to quite a great degree. Can you do an American accent, please? I kind of set myself up for that, didn't I, Peggy? Well, I mean, an American accent, it really depends on what kind of American accent I do. So this is like my kind of standard American accent that I do. And I mean, like, you can go like real Valley Girl, like it's amazing. Oh my God, I really, really love the way American people speak. I really like it a lot. And then you can go like a more Southern type style of American English that I really like. I like the sound of that. I like how it rests in my mouth. I like how the vowels go all strange, I really like that in American English. So yeah, there we go. I just embarrassed myself now. Do I speak Japanese? ちょっと日本語の話しません。ちょっと。Unfortunately, not very much. 日本語セデネの大学に勉強しました。でも、私の日本語ちょっと。Do you have any resources for smaller languages? It's very difficult with with smaller languages. I think that smaller languages, you need to find many different places. There are different things. It depends which smaller languages you mean. Some have got more than others. It depends what you define as a small language, what you define as that. So if you write to me, if you write me a message and ask me which one you're talking about or which ones you're talking about, I can see if I can find an answer. It's a bit difficult to answer that as a general question because there are so many things. Some have very little to zero. Some have more. Okay, I'm going to try and answer some other questions on Facebook because I'm conscious that I haven't gone back to Facebook for a few minutes. Okay, the native thing is an interesting topic. I know, I like that a lot. Hey, Chanel, nice to see you. What are you doing? What are you doing at 2:30 a.m.? Oh, you're not in the land of the rising sun. No, Tim, I'm not. You're the one who's in Japan, Tim Kiwi. Do you want a nice Japanese speaker? Tim's your man. There we go. Have you thought about learning Native American language? Yeah, I would love to. In fact, Chanel, I picked up some Ojibwe books when I was in Minnesota earlier this year, with the strong intention of picking something up. I love that they had Ojibwe written with kind of these scans that you could scan the code and hear the Ojibwe for many different signs around Bemidji, where I was in Minnesota visiting the wonderful Professor Alexander Ogwellis at his in his new position in Concordia Language Villages, which was really, really exciting for me to do. But yeah, I did, and I met some really cool people at the Ojibwe Center as well in Bemidji, and yeah, I was all fired up. But, you know, you come back with good intentions, and then something else happens, and then you have no time, and then a pandemic happens, right? You're kind of like, what's happening now? But yes, I would. Have you ever dipped into any of those, Chanel? It's important to speak with an accent, without an accent, in order to be considered proficient. Absolutely not, Chris. I think that it's funny. You do get people who are prejudiced with accents, and especially you know, in English. But I honestly don't think it matters. I think your pronunciation is the most important thing. Seriously, it's like, if you can understand what you're saying, if people can understand what you're saying, that's the key. Because if you can't understand what you're saying, then it's a problem. The accent, it's really not the be-all and end-all. It's sometimes more important, to be fair, sometimes accent is more important in languages where they're not used to hearing foreigners speak the language. Just because they hear an accent and they're like, oh, they've never heard it before. And sometimes it can be important to try and work a little bit more on your accent if you're speaking a language like that. My home language is a good example, Macedonian. So few people learn Macedonian that if you have a very strong accent, even if your pronunciation is fairly good, it can throw people off. But pronunciation is the important thing. I did answer the question on the pronunciation thing in quite a lot of detail. To Dara Croft, I definitely recommend that you go back to near the start of this live, and you can have a look at what I said. I gave some very concrete examples of what you can do. Привет, как тебя? Погода сейчас. Сейчас здесь очень жарко, потому что здесь в Македонии это 40 ступеней Цельсиев. Я думаю, что как и в России. Вы здесь, где в России, это здесь нормально, как в Греции тоже. Очень жарко, очень неприятно для меня. Но хорошо. Здесь у меня хорошо, потому что у меня климат. И я могу быть как 20 степеней. И поэтому это очень лучше для работы и всего. Okay, is there any particular reason you like to study languages at university? I just have studied languages at university. There's not really a reason why. I just have. I studied, my degree is in languages, so I was used to the way I was taught languages at university. What I found university did for me is it forced me to speak about things that were not just me saying, hello, my name's Richard, I like this, I like that, all about me. I had to talk about things and topics that were difficult for me to talk about. Things that I wasn't necessarily wanting to talk about, but things that made me expand my vocabulary and my ability to understand and to reproduce the language. So I'd say that's why I like language classes. It forces me out of my comfort zone. Otherwise, there is a tendency for people to learn just the things that they want to learn. And you talk about that with the same group of people all the time. And then all of a sudden you go to a new group of people and they talk about a different topic and you can't interact in the same way. And it makes you feel a bit worse about your language ability. And it also, yeah, and you're not really that bad. It's just, it makes you feel worse. Unfortunately, I do have to go. I've been on for 50 minutes and I have to go now. So I will finish the live now. Please, please, please do feel free to reach out with any other questions you have. I'd be happy to answer them on the next live. Next week, Thursday, normal time of 7 p.m. Central European time. Looking forward to speaking to you all then. I've really enjoyed your company. Thank you very much, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.